What if the greatest westerns of the 60s and 70s weren't the ones everyone remembers, but the ones quietly buried in the dust? Between the spaghetti boom and Hollywood's new wave, dozens of frontier stories vanished from theaters and drifted into legend. Some were too bleak, too strange, or simply too real for their time. Today they're free to stream and shockingly good. Saddle up because we're uncovering 15 forgotten westerns that deserve another ride. Number 15, The Shooting, 1966. It begins like a mirage, a lone rider, empty desert, the sound of wind scraping sand. Monte Hellman's The Shooting feels like a fever dream, disguised as a western. Starring Warren Oates and a young Jack Nicholson, it was one of two micro-budget frontier films Hellman shot back-to-back in Utah, funded partly by Roger Corman. The plot sounds simple. A mysterious woman hires two cowboys to help her cross a barren wasteland. But nothing about it is simple. The film strips away the genre's polish. No saloons, no sweeping scores, no easy morality. Just dust paranoia and cryptic motives. Hellman keeps you guessing who's hunting who and why. Every scene feels tense and unpredictable, like the desert itself might swallow the characters whole. Critics didn't know what to make of it, at first calling it experimental and incomprehensible. But over time, it became a cult classic influencing directors from Quentin Tarantino to Jim Jarmusch. Watching The Shooting today feels like discovering a lost Twilight Zone episode set in the Old West, philosophical, bleak, and hypnotic. It's not about guns, it's about dread. And you can find it streaming for free in crisp, remastered form. Just don't expect answers. Hellman never meant to give you any. Number 14, Ride in the Whirlwind, 1966. The same year Hellman made The Shooting, he rolled cameras on another hidden gem, Ride in the Whirlwind. Also produced by Roger Corman and starring Jack Nicholson, who wrote the screenplay, it flips the typical outlaw story upside down. Three innocent cowhands stop to rest near a shack, only to discover it's a hideout for robbers. When a posse rides in, they're mistaken for the gang and hunted across the desert. This is the anti-John Wayne Western. The heroes aren't noble lawmen, they're just regular men caught in chaos. Nicholson's writing captures the helplessness of being branded guilty in a world that doesn't wait for explanations. The dusty landscapes feel endless, and the tension never breaks. The dialogue is sparse, the performance is raw, and the ending hits with quiet heartbreak. What makes Ride in the Whirlwind unforgettable is its realism. There's no soundtrack telling you how to feel, only wind footsteps and fear. It's a rare 60s Western that feels almost documentary-like an existential chase movie wrapped in frontier grit. Pair it with The Shooting, and you've got one of the strangest double features ever made, two sides of the same dusty coin. Number 13, Day of the Evil Gun, 1968. Here's a Western that deserved better marketing and a longer memory. Day of the Evil Gun, directed by Jerry Thorpe, stars Glenn Ford as a weary rancher who returns home to find his family taken by raiders. What follows isn't the heroic revenge tale audiences expected, it's a slow-burning story about guilt, rivalry, and the weight of violence. Ford plays a man haunted by his own legend, forced to team up with a neighbor who secretly loves his wife. The dynamic between the two men drives the entire film, equal parts tension and reluctant respect. The script balances personal drama with authentic frontier survival, and the cinematography captures wide, sun-bleached vistas that feel both beautiful and punishing. By the late 60s, Westerns were changing. The good guys were no longer spotless, and Day of the Evil Gun nails that moral ambiguity perfectly. Glenn Ford's performance is weathered and human. He's not a cowboy hero anymore, just a man trying to make things right in a world that's stopped believing in right and wrong. You can watch it free today, and it still feels surprisingly modern, a thoughtful Western about what happens after the glory days fade. Number 12, The Great Silence, 1968. If there's one movie that defines the anti-Western, this is it. The Great Silence, directed by Sergio Corbucci, the man behind Django, is a cold, snowbound masterpiece that flips every Western trope upside down. Instead of dusty deserts, we get endless blizzards. Instead of heroic gunslingers, we get bounty hunters who kill for money. And at the center stands Silence, a mute gunfighter, played by Jean-Louis Trintignant, defending outlaws hunted for profit. Corbucci made the film as a response to real-world injustice. Its setting in the frozen Utah mountains, shot in Italy's Dolomites, feels otherworldly. Klaus Kinski delivers one of the creepiest villains of the decade, a bounty hunter so calm he smiles through every confrontation. And the haunting score by Ennio Morricone is pure melancholy. Audiences in 1968 weren't ready for it. The studio even demanded a second, happier ending for international release. But the director's cut, tragic, poetic, and unflinching, became legendary among filmmakers. Quentin Tarantino cited it as a major influence on The Hateful Eight. Watching it now feels like witnessing the Western genre's funeral procession through snow and sorrow. And yes, it's free to stream in all its chilling glory. Number 11. A Town Called Hell, 1971. The title says it all. A Town Called Hell isn't your grandfather's Western, it's dusty, chaotic, and morally twisted. Starring Robert Shaw, Telly Savalas, and Stella Stevens, it opens with a massacre and never quite calms down. The plot follows a mysterious woman who rides into a violent border town hunting for a man responsible for her husband's death. But in this town, everyone has blood on their hands and everyone's lying. Shot in Spain during the boom of Euro-Westerns, the film mixes British grit with Italian-style brutality. It's part revenge story, part psychological labyrinth. The camera lingers on faces sweating under the sun, the silence before chaos, the blurred line between justice and obsession. While critics called it confusing and too grim back in the day, modern viewers have started to see it differently, a surreal allegory about revenge eating its own tail. The cast goes all in with Shaw at his most unpredictable and Savalas practically stealing every scene. It's not polished, but that's exactly its charm. A Town Called Hell feels like a Western on the edge of madness, a film that looks straight into the moral vacuum of the frontier. And yes, it's streaming free, waiting to haunt new viewers who think they've seen every Western twist. Number 10. Man in the Wilderness, 1971. Before The Revenant shocked audiences with its realism, Man in the Wilderness told almost the same story 40 years earlier, starring Richard Harris and directed by Richard Sarafian. This haunting frontier epic follows Zachary Bass, a fur trapper left for dead after a brutal animal attack. Alone, half-conscious, and surrounded by a frozen wasteland, he claws his way back to life and hunts down the men who abandoned him. Unlike the glossy westerns of its time, this one feels raw, stripped to the bone. Harris gives a near-silent performance filled with agony and determination, his eyes doing all the talking. The cinematography is stunning: icy rivers, fog, shrouded forests, and endless plains that look like another planet. There's no hero speech, no neat moral, just one man and nature locked in a quiet battle for survival. Released during the dying years of the Western craze, it didn't get the recognition it deserved. Yet its influence is undeniable. You can practically trace its DNA through The Revenant and countless survival dramas since. Watching it free today feels like rediscovering the film that started a whole subgenre, quiet, brutal, and breathtaking. Number 9. Doc, 1971. Forget the mythic version of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Doc takes that legend, turns it inside out, and shows what might have really happened at the OK Corral. Directed by Frank Perry and starring Stacy Keach as Doc Holliday and Faye Dunaway as Kate, it's a melancholy take on friendship sickness and the fading glamour of violence. This isn't the swaggering West. You remember it's dirty, political, and strangely tender. Keach plays Holliday as a man falling apart from illness and disillusionment, while Harris Yulin's Wyatt Earp is more ambitious than noble. Dunaway's Kate steals scenes with a performance both fierce and tragic. Perry avoids the expected showdowns and heroic poses. Instead, he builds tension through silences and long stares, as if everyone already knows how doomed they are. It's a film about endings, the end of heroes, the end of myths, the end of the West itself. When it premiered, audiences were confused. They wanted gunfights, not existential heartbreak. But in hindsight, Doc feels ahead of its time, a Western that finally asked what all the bloodshed was really for. It's now free to stream, and it hits harder than most modern reinterpretations. Number 8. Ulzana's Raid, 1972. If you want a Western that digs deep into the psychology of violence, look no further than Ulzana's Raid. Directed by Robert Aldrich and starring Burt Lancaster, this film shocked audiences with its grim realism and moral tension. It follows a cavalry troop pursuing an Apache raider named Ulzana, led by a young lieutenant who quickly learns that the frontier isn't about good and evil. It's about survival and understanding your enemy. Aldrich, known for tough, unsentimental films, strips away the romanticism of the West. Every decision feels life or death, and Lancaster plays his seasoned scout with weary wisdom. The script, written by Alan Sharp, balances empathy and discomfort, asking viewers to confront their own biases rather than offering easy answers. Many critics in the 70s called it one of the most honest depictions of the frontier ever filmed. It's not an action spectacle. It's a slow, thoughtful dissection of fear, prejudice, and what happens when ideology meets wilderness. Watching Ulzana's Raid free today feels unsettling in the best way. It reminds you that real history isn't black and white, and the West was never simple. Number 7. The Hired Hand, 1971. When Peter Fonda directed The Hired Hand, people expected another easy-riding adventure. What they got instead was a quiet, poetic meditation on loyalty and regret. Fonda stars as a drifting cowboy who decides to return home to the wife he left years ago. Alongside his friend, played beautifully by Warren Oates, he tries to rebuild the life he once abandoned. The film unfolds slowly, almost dreamlike, with cinematography that looks like a moving painting. The warm sunset tones and long dissolves give it a nostalgic glow, as if memory itself were the real subject. But beneath the beauty is a story about forgiveness, how hard it is to earn it, and how fragile it can be. Critics in 1971 didn't know what to make of its gentle pacing. But decades later, it's recognized as one of the most lyrical westerns ever made, a rare film that treats its characters with empathy rather than judgment. The Hired Hand isn't about revenge or heroism. It's about coming home and realizing the world kept turning without you. You can stream it free today, and it's still one of the most soulful westerns of its era. Number 6. The Culpepper Cattle Co. 1972. It's dusty, grimy, and shockingly authentic. The Culpepper Cattle Co. takes the cattle drive formula and throws away the Hollywood shine. Directed by Dick Richards, it follows a teenage boy who joins a group of hardened cowhands dreaming of glory, but finding only exhaustion, hunger, and disillusionment. This film feels alive with dirt and sweat. The cowboys don't look glamorous. They look human. The dialogue is clipped, the humor dry, and the violence matter of fact. It's less about adventure and more about endurance, the slow grind of life on the trail. Filmed with natural light and a near-documentary eye, it captures the West as it probably looked, dusty, unforgiving, and morally gray. Critics praised its realism, and modern viewers see it as a precursor to gritty westerns like Deadwood. By the time it ends, you realize it's not a coming-of-age story, it's a loss-of-illusion story. The young hero doesn't find legend, he finds truth, and that truth isn't glamorous. Available free today. The Culpepper Cattle Co. feels like a time capsule from when westerns started telling the truth, and that's exactly why it endures. Number 5. Valdez is Coming, 1971. Few westerns hit as hard as Valdez is Coming. Directed by Edwin Sharon and starring Burt Lancaster, it's a story about dignity, justice, and the quiet fury of a man pushed too far. Lancaster plays Bob Valdez, a humble town constable wrongfully humiliated by a powerful rancher and his hired men. Instead of roaring back in anger, Valdez takes his time, methodical, patient, unstoppable. What sets this film apart is its emotional weight. Valdez isn't out for glory, he's out to restore balance. His calm voice hides a deep fire, and every decision he makes feels measured, human, and righteous. The story plays like a parable about pride and cruelty, and Lancaster's performance grounds it in quiet strength. The cinematography captures wide sunlit plains and shadowed canyons that mirror Valdez's moral journey. Critics later called it one of the best revisionist westerns of its time, simple in setup, profound in message. It's about what happens when a good man refuses to stay broken. Today, Valdez is Coming feels timeless. It's free to watch, lean in storytelling, and deeply satisfying in payoff. Sometimes the most dangerous man in town isn't the loudest. He's the one who whispers, "I'll be back." Number 4. Lawman, 1971. Imagine the quiet intensity of a sheriff who doesn't bluff. That's Lawman, directed by Michael Winner, and starring Burt Lancaster again this time as Marshal Jared Maddox, a figure of pure unbending authority. The story begins when rowdy cowhands accidentally kill a man during a drunken celebration. Maddox rides into their town, demanding they surrender for trial. But what starts as duty becomes obsession. Lawman is a fascinating Western because it asks, when does justice turn into vengeance? Lancaster plays Maddox as a man so rigid he becomes almost frightening. Opposite him, Robert Ryan gives a moving performance as a weary sheriff trying to keep peace without more bloodshed. Their moral standoff is as gripping as any shootout. The dialogue crackles with tension, and the dusty town feels alive with fear and pride. Winner's direction gives the film a harsh, realistic tone. There's no triumph, only consequences. By the end, it's not clear who the hero is anymore, and that's what makes it so memorable. Lawman may have slipped under the radar in 1971, but it stands among the great psychological westerns. It's free to stream, and it's a masterclass in how principle can become its own prison. Number 3. The Hunting Party, 1971. In the early 70s, westerns started getting darker, and The Hunting Party might be the darkest of them all. Directed by Don Medford, it stars Gene Hackman as a ruthless cattle baron and Oliver Reed as an outlaw, whose kidnapping sets off a violent, tragic chain of events. What begins as a pursuit turns into a grim meditation on obsession, cruelty, and pride. The movie shocked audiences on release. It wasn't about heroism or adventure, it was about moral decay hiding under the cowboy hat. The cinematography is gorgeous, but unsettling, with golden fields that feel like they're rotting from the inside. Hackman delivers a powerhouse performance, cold and calculating, while Reed plays his role with raw animal energy. Behind the mayhem, there's something deeper, a portrait of civilization breaking down, where the hunters and hunted switch places until there's no difference between them. Critics were divided, calling it too bleak, but its boldness makes it unforgettable. Today, The Hunting Party feels like a Western made for the modern age. Intense, morally complex, and impossible to look away from. It's available free online, still burning with that strange, angry beauty that defined the best of the 70s. Number 2. The Ballad of Cable Hogue, 1970. Leave it to Sam Peckinpah, the poet of dusty violence, to surprise everyone with a gentle, bittersweet story. The Ballad of Cable Hogue is one of his most tender films, starring Jason Robards as a drifter who finds a spring in the desert and turns it into a rest stop for stagecoaches. It's a tale of luck, love, and the passing of an era. Peckinpah, known for his gritty tone, trades mayhem for melancholy here. Cable isn't a killer or a hero, he's just a man trying to carve out peace before progress wipes him away. The film glows with golden light and offbeat humor, balanced by moments of deep sadness. Stella Stevens brings warmth and wit as his companion, and Robards gives one of his most heartfelt performances. Beneath the laughs, Cable Hogue is really about change the machines, the roads, the civilization creeping westward, leaving the old ways behind. It's a goodbye to the frontier itself, told with affection and regret. It didn't make waves at release, but now it's seen as one of Peckinpah's greatest works, a film about endings that still feels full of life. And yes, it's streaming free, waiting to charm anyone who still believes the desert can hold a miracle. Number 1. Monte Walsh, 1970. Sometimes the West doesn't end with a showdown, it ends with silence. Monte Walsh, directed by William Fraker and starring Lee Marvin and Jack Palance, captures that silence perfectly. It's the story of aging cowboys watching their world vanish as railroads and ranch owners take over the open range. There are no grand speeches, no heroic last stands, just acceptance and the slow fading of an era. Marvin gives one of his best performances as Monte, a drifting cowboy, too honest to change and too proud to quit. His friendship with Palance's character Chet forms the film's emotional backbone, two men trying to find purpose when their purpose is disappearing. Visually, it's stunning. The wide skies and fading sunsets feel like the West itself saying goodbye. The tone is nostalgic, but never sentimental. It's a farewell to the myth of endless freedom. Critics called it too quiet back in 1970, but that quiet has aged beautifully. Today, Monte Walsh stands as one of the last true elegies of the classic Western, a film about time loss and dignity. It's streaming free, and if you love the genre, it'll linger with you long after the credits fade. So there you have it, 15 forgotten westerns from the 60s and 70s that prove the genre never really died. It just wandered off, waiting for the right audience to catch up. Each of these films offers something different: grit, beauty, melancholy, or truth. Which one will you ride with first? Drop your pick in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more lost treasures from film history. The frontier might be gone, but the stories still ride.